Get this. Weekday mornings from 9 on Triple M.
Kevin Smith is coming in. He's in transit. He's on some other more inferior program at the moment.
Okay.
Being asked idiotic questions by fools. That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, I'm willing to go along with that.
He'll be here hopefully by break 2 or 3. And in the meantime, sitting in the guest host chair is my dog B. Hello, B. B, speak! There you go. See, there are many announcers who can't do that.
Yeah, there's people taking notes. She's going to get a Ra award.
Hey, B, do you like LaBouche? That is a no. I reckon that was a no. Hey!
Oh, where's the passion?
Massive LaBouche fan.
Please, a round of phony applause for Kevin Smith.
Thank you, sir. You weren't lying. You really had the dog in here.
Oh, yeah.
I was listening on the way in, and I was like, oh, wacky sound effect show. But you literally have the dog here.
I'm afraid it is also a wacky sound effects show. That's the bad news. Hey, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having.
In case people aren't sure which Kevin Smith is, it's the one who made Clerks and Chasing Amy, now Clerks II.
Is there another poor sod that's burdened with my name as well?
There's a new... I think he may have died recently.
Oh, that's right. There was a dude who was on Xena.
Yes,
He
from
played Mars or one of the gods of something, whatever it was.
one of the top blokes.
Yes. Yeah, he died a few years ago. That's right. That's true. I forgot about that.
From New Zealand.
Whenever I Google my name, and I do it often.
It's a bad one to Google, though.
Totally. A lot of bad things come up. A lot of Smiths, and he was one of them. And I remember seeing the headline of Kevin Smith dies, and I was just like, God, Jersey Girl wasn't that bad. I'm still here.
I'm hanging out because Tony Martin, who's married to Sid Charisse, he must be 102.
So you're going to get that headline.
I'm going to get a shock when I look at CNN one morning. Kevin, I always knew that you worked in the shop that's in the movie Clerks.
Yeah.
But I hadn't considered that it was a video shop as well as a convenience store.
There was a convenience store, where the Quick Stop is, and then 2 doors down, like where Randall works in the movies.
Yes.
There's a video store that's owned by the same people.
Ed Cavalier over there, 8.5 years behind the counter of a video shop.
What was it, mom and pop, or was it a chain?
No, it was Mum and Pop.
Mom and pop.
Yeah, it was great.
Very few of those left.
And they loved, videos, and the 2 guys that ran it just were obsessed with great videos.
Right.
So they'd get stuff in, and they'd be like, no one's going to rent this, but we can watch
But they got it anyway.
Yeah, love it.
All a write-off. Yeah, the mom and pop place is the way to be. I mean, do you guys have Blockbusters out here?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a video store is a video store, but there's a very corporate vibe to that. Any place where you got to wear a uniform, you're like, yipes. But the mom and pop joint, normally the people that own the place just want to, or you sit on their empire and kind of enjoy their wealth and whatnot, so they kind of go away and tend to leave you running the shop.
And were you running the one that you were in?
Yeah, but it was it's barely a one-man operation.
Yeah, it looks pretty
it's a
small.
closet. Oh, it's tiny. It's about as big as a bathroom. And it's the beautiful thing about that job is you'd get maybe 10 people coming in throughout the day, so you could just sit there and watch movies all day long.
And what was your emergency recommendation? Someone comes in, they don't have any ideas. Mine is always Midnight Run with Robert De Niro,
the
Charles
go-to?
Grodin.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good choice. I didn't have one. I mean, basically, we had a real new release clientele. Like, we had this awesome selection of old videos. That's why I was drawn to the store in the first place, because you can go there and find stuff that you didn't even know was on VHS at the time. It was kind of thrown onto VHS in the heydays, like right around the time Betamax was dying. They started putting out everything, like this old show called Tales from the Dark Side, which they put out a video collection for, and you still can't find to this day. And they came in these massive boxes that look like cereal boxes more so than little video clamshells. So, I would kind of push the older stuff, and people would just like gravitate right to the new release rack.
Right.
So they wanted the Navy SEAls of the world.
Navy SEALs!
Yeah.
Which the reason that above the law.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was a big Steven Seagal period where they wanted Steven Seagal and nothing but.
There's a film of yours, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Mm-hmm. It's got a shot in it. Now, look, people love to say about your films, they're not particularly visual. That's a criticism you seem to attract.
Totally. And I also kind of throw it out there myself as to kind of, I believe in stealing the thunder, saying the negative thing about yourself before somebody else does. So I'm always the first to kind of go out there and say, like, our films don't really look like much. And I think press tends to be very lazy, so if you say it, they're like, well, I guess he's right, rather than kind of forming their own opinion. So I think I kind of propagate that myth myself.
I disagree. There's a shot in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. It only goes about 3 seconds. It's one of the funniest shots in any movie. It's towards the end. There's a shootout going on.
Right.
And Will Ferrell jumps up from behind a car, and he's playing a wildlife officer.
Right.
and he fires his gun, and he looks like it's like a 6-year-old girl trying to fire a gun. He has no idea how to work a gun. He's flinching away from it,
Right.
and it's like one of those shots where you just go, play it again,
Right.
play it again. It's like when Chris Farley falls out of the airport toilet in Tommy Boy. Do you have scenes like that where you just go, I've got to see that again?
The wife is a big slapstick fan. It's weird. The wife doesn't really go for my brand of whimsy. She's not really a fan
Really?
of the stuff I do. No, I mean, and it's not to say she's like retarded or something, but she's not really into the verbal bot. Nah, she likes seeing people fall down and get cracked in the nuts or whatever. So whenever we're watching something, if somebody gets hit or falls down, I immediately rewind it just because I know it's going to make her laugh. And she's kind of ashamed of the whole thing, but like that's what tickles her funny bone. That shot with Will Ferrell, man, it's just shocked that we didn't kill anybody in a Brandon Lee like fashion because he was so haphazard with that gun. And you're shooting blanks, but still there's a discharge of sorts, and it's amazing no crew members were killed in the making of that movie.
Now, I can't imagine that there would be any safety issues on the set of a Clerks film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what really can go wrong there?
This time around, donkey.
Yeah.
Donkey.
An amazing closing sequence
Thank
with
you.
a donkey.
Thank you. Yeah, we got a big donkey show at the end of the picture, and the big safety risk is you have to clear the rear of the ass, if you will. We can say that, can't we?
Yeah, we can.
Because technically it's accurate. You have to clear the rear of the ass because they tend to kick, whether they're meaning to or not. They just got this kind of spasm where they kick. So I remember that was the big safety issue. We had a lecture. It's a 5 to 10 minute lecture by the animal handler about how to approach and circumvent the donkey. And I was just like, man, this is what my career has come to.
Well, the original Clerks, and I remember when that came out, it was kind of an odd tone because it sort of had one foot in the black and white Jim Jarmusch kind of indie film kind of tone, and one foot in your balls out kind of Animal House comedy.
Right.
And was it true that Clerks was the first movie to get an R rating just for swearing?
In the States, it was an NC-17 rating. I don't know if you guys have that rating down here, but
That
beyond...
translates to MA here.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was R. Because I was 16 when it came out,
Right.
and I couldn't watch it. I had to wait till we got a preview copy at the video shop, which I kept.
Thanks, you were the guy. In the States, we've got there's a PG, a PG-13, and that's like anyone 13 and under can go see the movie without accompaniment or whatever. And then there's the R, which you have to be 17 to get into, unless you're with a parent. Then there's an NC-17, which is this rating that even if you've got a parent, an irresponsible enough parent who's like, I'm going to take you to go see this really horrendous movie with tons of sex and nudity, they won't let you in. So you have to be 17 or older to get in. So initially they gave us that, and it was just for the language.
And that had never happened before.
I don't think so. I think right around the same time. What's his name? Martin Lawrence did a concert movie called "You So Crazy," and that too had gotten an NC-17 for him just standing there talking.
Because there was a poll recently. I think The Devil's Rejects, the Rob Zombie film, is the record holder for F words.
Yes, yeah, we're on that list somewhere. I think we're in the top 20 for Jane Silent Bob Strike Back.
Just below Driving Miss Daisy. That's what we're told.
Well, you couldn't. Jessica Tandy was cursed like a sailor. She was like a longshoreman. You couldn't shut her up
when she wasn't out the back shooting up. Kevin was just telling us about his favourite finds on YouTube.
Isn't YouTube is kind of more entertaining than going to the cinema lately, and I say that with a movie to promote.
I know, it's frightening. Why come and see my multi-million-dollar 3-year project when you can see a guy falling out of a car?
Spend 2 hours just sitting home going through random videos.
You've got to see the Drunk Police. What do you type in, Ed?
Drunk Police.
We've got to get a
and
link.
It'll come up.
And, of course, if you go to our website, what do we have links to?
The YouTube links we have at the moment are for table tennis,
yes,
pinata accidents,
yes,
and some nice little cats.
Good cats?
So cute.
Right.
So
fun to see when you get home from seeing Clerks II. Yes. Kevin Smith, filmmaker Kevin Smith, is with us.
I felt like I was back in 1982 listening to that Clash song.
1982. We were still in this country maybe a couple of years away from home video shops in those days.
Really?
Yeah. And then when they first, what was it? Remember, there was only about 20 titles you could get.
Well, I remember the first one. I lived in Brisbane, and I was walking home one day, and there was a massive plate glass window, and someone was putting up a poster of the Untouchables.
Right.
And I just, what is this new world? And I walked in. I went, right, this is for me.
I remember there was a guy. My father used to work. My father worked at the post office, and he worked the night shift. Not even like the guy that was a letter carrier. Not even the sorter. He was the dude that canceled your stamp. Whoa. So like the most hated man in the postal community because you can't reuse it because he had to cancel it. Just soul killing work, but we're all really proud of him because he worked at the post office 30 years, never managed to kill anybody. So the dude, he was at work with this dude named Bernie McRae, and Bernie had been married and had kids, but then one of those first divorcers like in our community. So like immediately went out and bought himself a porno van, like a van with like a Conan type figure on one side with a topless barbarian woman at his feet. But he was the first guy that had a VHS player. Wow. And we stopped by his house at one point, and he was showing us bootlegs, original bootlegs of like movies that weren't even available on home video. Like he had a copy of Star Wars at that point, and he had a copy of Empire Strikes Back. I don't know how the heck he got it.
How would you get a bootleg of that?
I have no idea, but the dude had connections. And I remember he went to show us the video, and it was, we'd never seen anything like it. The idea of being able to watch a movie when you wanted to, not wait till it was on like, the network or something like that, or see it in a cinema. And he pressed play on, this behemoth of a machine. It was as big as a Volkswagen. And there was a video, I guess, already in it. Yeah. And to my what would be 8 or 9-year-old eyes at that point, it looked like a woman speaking into a microphone.
Is this on?
Very, very. But I was like, that microphone doesn't look like any mic. That dude fumbled for the machine so quickly. And my parents were like, ha, 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 ha. Wasn't for years that I figured out what that scenario was. But I was just like, what movie was that? Why is she speaking so closely?
They had nothing like that at my local milk bar. I remember they only had 2 titles initially. The 2 titles were Porky's 2 the Next Day.
Good film.
Right.
And The Wicker Man. There's an evening's fun. There's an evening's fun.
And once you've seen both, you've shot your wad. You've got nothing. You've got nothing to watch between those 2. I remember the first time we joined a video club because back in the day, there was the VHS, and then Beta kind of tried to encroach on it. Yeah. And my parents went with Beta, which was kind of the 8-track of the VHS world. And so we joined a video shop that had 2 sections, one Beta and one VHS. And as Beta kind of wound down rather quickly.
And moved to a sort of alcove down the back of the shop.
That's the thing. It's like you would watch like new titles come in on both sections. And then one day the new title stopped on the Beta side. So you were looking at the other side going like, wow, those cats can watch like Lethal Weapon and stuff. And what are we watching? We're still watching Bloodsucking Freaks.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, not at all. I remember that was one of the first movies I rented. It was me and my friend Mike Bellicus, and my mom took us to the video store, and we joined. You had to pay to join in those days. It was like $30. Whoa. And we rented out 2 movies, and one was Bloodsucking Freaks because we were kids. Like we were like 10, 11 years old, and we were way into like horror movies and stuff. So we asked the person behind the counter, like, what is the most horrific horror movie you got? What's the worst horror movie? And they gave us Bloodsucking Freaks. Yeah. And we're sitting home watching the flick. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Oh, it's horrendous. And my mother's in and out of the room. And it's like not a traditional horror movie like a slasher movie we were looking for. It's like a man, a very twisted individual, keeps women prisoner and does heinous things with them. And my mother walked in at the one moment where the guy was like looking at holding this naked woman's face, and he goes, her mouth would make an interesting urinal.
There you go.
And my mother walks through the room and then doubles back so quickly. And she's like, what did you rent?
Is this another one of these microphone films?
And then the irony is, like, years later, I would make movies that said worse than that.
Yeah, I know. And we've got to talk about these movies because the Clerks, if you remember, they were in a very low-budget black and white universe in movie 1. 12 years later, they're in colour. They're even getting pretty much a Technicolor musical number.
Yeah.
You've got Rosario Dawson. Mm-hmm. How the hell did Dante manage to hook up with Rosario Dawson?
Yeah, that's why that woman deserves an Academy Award. She makes you believe she would actually sleep with that guy.
That's like one of the 5 hottest women in the world.
And he winds up with her, yeah. It's
if you'd told that guy, Brian O'Halloran, back in 1994...
Right. One day, dude, we're going to hook you up with her. He wouldn't have believed it. Yeah, he owes me, I feel. Because not only, on film does his character kind of get to have a something of a relationship with her, but like, he got to kiss her, in real life and whatnot. I mean, that's kind of Muse would have done that. Muse would have paid for that privilege.
As the years go by, it's a comfort to me somehow to see Jay and Silent Bob on a film poster. You know, you need some consistency in this ever-changing world.
Yeah, and there's that. There's that, and I guess there's children.
Yes.
The two things that warm the cockles.
Well,
children and Jay and Silent Bob.
A few years ago, you threatened to retire all of these characters, and that was a sad day, I thought. And
yeah.
thank God you were lying.
Who knew I was lying? I had to figure that out later on. That was post Jersey Girl. Suddenly I was like, hey, guess what? They're back.
Oh, come on.
But I don't know. This time it does feel like this is the way to go out, because you've seen the flick. Where they end up at the end of the flick is a nice way to kind of end with them. And I just don't know. It's diminishing returns. Like, I'm 36. If at age 40 I'm leaning against a wall with fake hair extensions and a backwards baseball cap, I've really this characters go from comedy to tragedy.
But you've started showing up in other films. Are you in the guy who did Donnie Darko's
Southland
new film?
Tales,
Are
Richard's
you in that?
movie. Yeah.
Is that
Unrecognizable though.
Right.
Like Richard said, I want to put you in the flick, but I want to change your look completely. I said, what are you thinking about? He's like, well, I want you to play a legless Iraqi war vet. And he's like, can you, and I was thinking maybe of shaving you, and could you lose 50 pounds? And I was like, Richard, if you want to cut my legs off, I will lose 50 pounds. That's about as close as I can get to that. And I show up on the set, and he's like, we're going to put you in the makeup chair, fool around with your look. I said, all right. Walked up to in the makeup booth, and there's two sections. There's one where everyone just gets the powder and stuff put on, and there's one full of prosthetics. And laying in front of the prosthetics chair is just a variety of rubber cheeks, chins, foreheads, and all that. I'm like, God, a poor son of a bitch has to sit there and have all that stuff applied. And then they show me to that chair.
Wow.
And so the dude who is the makeup artist is just like, I want to put some of these things on you, but in order to apply them to your face, your beard, it's going to make it hard for the glue to stick to your beard. Can you shave it off? And I was like, well, I got to play Silent Bob in a couple months, so I'd really like to keep the beard. He's like, well, can you take it down a little? I said, sure. So I take it down, like put the electric razor on a 2 and bring it down a little bit. And then he tries to apply these prosthetics, and he's like, it's still not working. Can you take it lower? Take it even lower. And he's just like, it's not catching. All right. Would you really mind taking it off? And I said, you know what, for Richard, fine. So I take it all the way off to the skin. And me without a beard, I just look frightening. Because most people are just used to looking at me with a beard. Like, anytime I take the beard off, which is very irregularly, my kid cries, because she's just like, who's this strange fat man having sex with my mother? So I take the beard off completely, and the dude spends the next 6 hours applying prosthetics to me with me facing away from the mirror. He turns me to face the mirror. Number one, the first thing I notice is I look like a 56-year-old version of myself. Second off, I'm wearing a fake beard. And I was just like, what kind of cruel joke was this? I had a beard to begin with.
Well, you don't want to do... Remember in the Batman TV show where Cesar Romero went, I'm going to be the Joker, but I'm not going to lose the moustache. Right. So he would just paint white paint
right over
across the moustache.
Is it convincing?
It was terrible.
That was the Joker, though. That's the Joker we all knew and loved for so many years.
And that's why I think that Heath Ledger has got to do that in the new movie.
Wear the
moustache and then paint over it.
Was there any controversy to that over here when they announced that casting? Were people upset or back home? I mean,
Lockie Hume fans were upset.
Yeah,
there was a big move for an actor called Lockie Hume to be the Joker, but another Australian got it. So I don't know.
Cool.
I think he'll do a great job, and I think they're going with it in a different approach. It's not going to be nobody can walk in the shoes of Jack Nicholson and do what he did. I think they're going left of center and doing a darker, more sinister, less maniacal, less giggly Joker.
There's so much to talk about here. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to get through it all in this hour. Nope. We could talk about your fine website. Gee, were you one of the first people to just go nuts on there?
I do spend an inordinate amount of time on the web. I figured out that I do spend about a third of the waking day online, and we started back in like late 95, early 96. We just celebrated 10 years of that website.
Yeah.
So yeah, back in the day, it was me and Peter Jackson.
Right.
We're the only two filmmakers kind of out there.
Wow.
And then slowly more people figured out a way to use it as a marketing tool and whatnot.
Movie Poop Shoot.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a great site to go to. What's happened to the bloke who does the DVD reviews called DK Holm? Where's he? Hasn't updated for months.
Yeah, he hasn't updated for some time. Slightly before Clerks II came out, we changed the name of Movie Poop Shoot to QuickStopEntertainment.com just because for years we took so much heat for Movie Poop Shoot. Like, it was tough to get one of your journalists in on a junket because they were like, where are you from? And they're like, Movie Poop Shoot.
I put out an album called Poop Shoot with Mick Malloy, and we're still paying for that. But it had a beautiful, classy cover. But, there's that. We could be certainly talking about your comic book work. Did you write a few issues of the Green Arrow?
I did. I wrote, what did I work on it for? 8, maybe 12
I
or
was
13 issues.
a big fan of the Green Arrow when I was a kid.
Dude that shoots arrows, that's it. That's a superpower. He's really good at archery.
Yeah, well, see, I was a DC Comics. I know it's
Me too.
cooler to be the Marvel Comics kind of fan.
I was always a DC guy myself.
And there was the Justice League of America. I always felt sorry for the guys who had to be carried everywhere, like Batman.
Right.
Some of them could fly if they had to go to emergency on the
that's
side of the
not
world.
cool.
And they're like, Batman, you get in Wonder Woman's invisible jet.
And the Green Arrow, he was unable to fly, as
Yeah,
I
he was
remember.
one of those dudes they had to carry. He was luggage
Yeah.
more than anything else. And they only he came in handy when they needed him to shoot like a boxing glove arrow across a room to trip a button or something like that. But they did great stories with him in the 70s where like he had his sidekick was Speedy, the guy in the red who was also an archer, and he got hooked on heroin at one point. And like Green
Speedy.
Arrow discovered it and had to like knock him off heroin. It was kind of an interesting storyline.
Something that happens in most of your films, certainly in Clerks II, is people have discussions, kind of like discussions that people have in real life about movie issues. A lot of talk about Lord of the Rings and George Lucas.
Right.
Did you used to I remember as a kid having, even like at about 6 or 7 years old, having discussions about superheroes. Things like, well, hang on, if Superman's costume is like impervious to all bullets, how did his mum like sew it from the blankets into a costume? Like, did she have a needle made of kryptonite?
Right.
Like, we could spend days having discussions like that.
And I made a career out of it, It was the kind of thing like your parents would be like, grow up about. And then like one day I made a career of it. Marvel kind of did away with that very quickly just by saying like all the costumes are made from unstable molecules.
There you go.
It was like that pseudoscience where people were like, well, I guess it's unstable molecules. Of course, it makes sense.
It was like on the Batman TV series when you're a kid, you're going, well, they go down the poles and then they're in the costumes at the bottom. What's happening on the way down? And then there was one episode of Batman where the Joker got into the Batcave and got onto the bat poles and was going up and down, and they had a downward-looking shot from up in the study. And you're going, there's nothing. It's just poles all the way down. There's no mechanical arms putting the costumes on as they descend. That was
Breaking
important.
it open. You blew the lid off the Batman TV show right there.
And then later on, you discover women. But why should we have all the fun, Ed?
No.
Let's throw open the calls at random and let people talk to Kevin Smith and
Speaking
us.
to Melbourne and the rest of...
And
Is it
the
Melbourne
rest-
or Melbourne?
You've got Melbourne, you've got Brisbane, you've got Adelaide, and you've got Sydney. What have they got to say, Ed Cavalier?
Excellent work. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, guys. How you going?
Excellent, mate. Excellent. You have a question for Kevin?
Oh, I certainly do. Kevin, just wanted to say great to have you on Oz. Love your work.
Thank you, sir.
We all know that you're a massive Star Wars fan. Now, the rumours been going around that obviously with the Star Wars series may be shot into a like a television sort of feature,
Right.
and that you're rumoured to maybe direct the episodes.
Yeah, I read that online as well. No truth to it whatsoever, but initially when I read it, there were reports that I was going to be involved with this Star Wars TV show. And normally I kind of get out there on the web and just go like, there's no truth to that whatsoever. This time around I was like, I'm not going to say yes and I'm not going to say no, and I just want to see how far it goes.
Right.
So I went out there and I was just like, it's nothing I'm free to talk about.
Okay.
And in parentheses I wrote, whistles the Emperor's theme. So everybody was like, oh my God, it's a secret project, he's working on it, blah, blah, blah. And it went on for a good year of people going, and then I would read reports online of like, I've been inside Lucasfilm, I've seen the script for Kevin's episode, I've spoken to Mark Hamill, who's in Kevin's episode.
Oh, wow.
It was very strange. And then the height of it though was, I was just doing the denial. And George Lucas was interviewed by somebody, and they're like, is Kevin Smith really working on the TV show? And he said, I'm really not free to talk about it right now. So I was like, George Lucas is doing the same thing I am. We're both sitting around like pretending that it might happen, but it wasn't true. And then finally I came out and said, nah, they never asked. They did ask me recently if I wanted to write an episode of they're doing 2 shows. One's live action and one is a CG cartoon.
Right.
And they asked me if I wanted to work on the CG cartoon, but that's just a sandbox you don't want to play in. You don't want to be the guy that messes up the Star Wars universe. Let George Lucas be that guy.
Let him. He's doing a good enough job.
Exactly. He
on
needs
his
no
own.
help from me.
Who else have we
Thank
got?
you,
Ed?
Daniel. Hello, Brad.
Hi, how you going?
Excellent, sir. You have a question for Kevin?
Yeah, I certainly do. In Clerks, there's a girl there who performs certain acts 37 times.
Right.
And this started the whole thing with me and my friends about the number 37.
Right on.
And if you actually watch movies, the most common occurring number where they just pull a number from the hat that's not important to the story is 37.
Isn't that
So
strange?
since it all started with you guys, I was wondering if there's any reason why the number 37.
I don't know. You know, there was no. It was just a poll where I had to come up with a number that seemed high but not ridiculously high.
Yeah.
Because saying like 10 or 12, people go like, well, you got to practice. But by the time you get to 37, that most respectable people are like, man, that's high.
Yeah, whereas if you go up to like 50, that's just slutty,
Right.
frankly.
Or if you said like 100 people, like that could never happen.
Thanks, Brad. Hello, Sarah.
G'day, guys. How you doing?
We're excellent, thank you. Your question for Kevin?
First of all, can I just say you've made my day. I love you, Kevin Smith.
Oh, thank you so much.
Anyway, I was just calling. George Clooney once said that the amount of fun they had on the set of making a movie, if that was the way that they were decided how good they were, then Cannonball Run 2 must have been like the best film ever made.
Right.
I was just wondering which one of your films you had the most fun on.
The most fun to make, I think, hands down, was Jane Silent Bob Strike Back. Every day was just a party, and the only two constants in the movie cast-wise were me and Muse. Every day you had a revolving series of cameos or actors that would come in and come out. So you never had a chance to grow tired of anybody. Right. Like where you were, I've been working with this dude for 30 days now. Like they would kind of come in and go out. It was just a really, really good time across the boards.
And what was the least fun one to do?
Probably Jersey Girl.
Oh, okay.
And not by virtue of the fact that like we all knew we were making something that people weren't going to like or something. It was a different vibe. I like to kind of have a very laid back, let's put on a show kind of affair, like the Little Rascals when they would, hold a show in the backyard and pay as you exit, that kind of thing. And Jersey Girl was just, once Ben and Jen, even when Ben became famous, very famous, he was in our stuff and very easy to work with and a great guy, and I knew him when and ... But you add Jennifer to the mix, and there was just this walking on eggshells air around her. And whether or not she kind of promotes it or it just kind of happens because she's who she is, it just felt like there was this like an outsider involved.
Sort of infects the atmosphere.
It does. It really kind of infects the atmosphere for everybody else. And it's strange because it's not like, no new people. Like we've added a new person to the mix and suddenly everything's gone foul because Rosario is fantastic and movie and great to work with in Clerks II, but Jennifer and Jersey Girl was just a strange mix.
But you had George Carlin. That must have been good.
That's always good, but Carlin is that most people think that he sits around and is the George Carlin we all know.
Right.
And he's not like he's not one of these comedians that feels the need to always be on and make you laugh. Like he's actually one of the most committed and serious performers I've ever met in terms of acting. Like he came up to me at one point. And he's like, his character, Bart, in the movie is always kind of giving crap to this friend of his named Greenie in the flick that Stephen Root played. And he's like, I just want you to know, I came up with a backstory for why Bart is always giving Greenie crap. And, like, I wrote it down, and I committed it to memory, and I've thrown it out of my head, and I've torn it up. So just know that I've got motivation for that. And I looked at Affleck. I'm like, how come you've never been that serious?
Right. Being shown up by George Carlin.
George Carlin's put more thought into this than you.
George Carlin, I think, I'll never get the wording of it right, but he came up with the best description for being a comedian, which is just thinking up goofy shit or pointing out things that you forgot to laugh at the first time round.
Exactly. Occupation fool, as he calls it.
Occupation fool.
Thank you. Hello, Chris.
G'day, boys. How you doing?
Excellent, sir. You have a question for Kevin?
Just firstly, congratulations on Clerks II. I've had a sneak peek, and it is brilliant.
Thank you, sir.
There
Thank you.
Just wanted to know, I'm a big Jason Lee fan, and I just want to know how you come across him at the start to cast him in the role.
Boy, the temptation to answer the come across question in a really nefarious way. Where I met him was in when we were rehearsing or auditioning rather on Mallrats. He was just one of the people that came through, one of the many actors. And we kind of fell in love with him because unlike the actors that came in with any pretense, he had never acted before. He was just coming off of this professional career as a skateboarder. Like
really?
He retired. He was talking about I just retired from my other career. And the dude's like 22 and you're like, what did you retire from? And he's like, I was a professional skateboarder and he used to earn as a skateboarder. He did it for 9 years and he decided he wanted to try acting instead. And he just had zero pretense about him, and we just kind of fell in love with him. And we kept bringing him back for auditions. Like, after he came in and would read, he'd leave, and then the casting director would be like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "I don't think we have a thing for him to do in the movie, but we like him. Just bring him back."
Right.
And after multiple times, finally, we decided, like, no, he actually would be pretty good in the flick.
I noticed it in Clerks II. He's got the "My Name Is Earl" moustache on,
Yeah,
and I'm
totally.
assuming you just cannot get rid of that.
No, he showed up, and he's doing 5-day weeks on that show, and he showed up to shoot our thing on a Saturday. It was really nice of him to make the time. But they put him through a wardrobe, and they bring him over to me to kind of approve, his look. And he's like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "It's all good, but we got to take the mustache off. This part doesn't call for a mustache." And he's like, I can't take the mustache off. The mustache is magic. The mustache is how I earn. That's me at this point. I was like, dude, I'm just kidding. Leave the mustache.
He's going to be wearing that tash for about 6 or 7 years.
Oh,
I'm guessing.
he is the new Tom Selleck in terms of like that mustache is him forever.
Kevin, we had so many people queued up to talk to you.
Yes.
And we could obviously go on for a couple more hours here, easily.
And also our Melbourne calls that just got through. Thank you very much. They're going to get double passes to the Astor tonight. Astor Cinema. Clerks II is showing, then a Q&A with Kevin. Completely sold out.
Fantastic.
Tickets going on eBay.
Yeah, we
etc.
did one in Sydney the other day, and it was like at this 2,000 seater, and it was packed. And it's such a really great way to watch that movie with people that love those movies. Like, it's one thing to go to the movies and you sit there and watch it with an audience where some people know everything about the movies you made, and some people are just there because they hear it's okay or something like that.
Yeah.
To see it with a group of hardcore fans,
that must be great.
Oh, it's so infectious. Like, I've seen the movie a number of times. I've written the movie. I've lived with it for a long time. And after a while, you become inured to the laughs or whatever. Sitting there with that audience, I was like, this is a pretty funny movie,
Sitting there with an audience, many of whom I'm guessing were dressed exactly like you.
There were a lot of cats out there that look like me, yeah.
Kevin, it's been such a treat having you come in. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Clerks II is coming to a cinema near you. You have to go and see it. And why not go and rent Clerks I?
Yeah, good idea.
And get back into the universe.
And Bloodsucking Freaks while you're there.
Bloodsucking Freaks. And frankly, anything with Steve Guttenberg.
Get this. Weekday mornings from 9 on Triple M.